You get my point? So anyway, don't try to finish the answer. You tell him, anyway, we have an evangelistic meeting at our church. They are going to be sharing the same way we are sharing here. Do you mind joining us? Maybe you can tell us something new that we haven't. You get the point? When you look at the way Jesus was doing his things, he used to create that hunger in someone, even if they were not interested. For example, at the well, we know the story, right? She was talking. Now when Jesus asked her that, can you give me some water to drink? The lady said, you a Jew. He let the lady narrate whatever she was thinking about them. But it is from what the lady was talking about that Jesus now picks that key word. Now, it seemed like this lady treasured so much the well and the water. So Jesus told her, if you knew who you were talking to, I would give you that water, that if you took it, you would never quench thirst again. You get the point? So, this woman, it went into her mind and she said, which kind of water can I drink of and I never thirst again? You get the point? So it is from what these people always narrate that you pick where to go. Don't try to show them that there is nothing new you can learn from them. Some of us there, I used to have a friend. You know where I work somewhere, and I've seen some of you there, but I won't mention. Now, we were in a meeting. So this lady is, again, if we have visitors here, I'm trying to bring out a point. Now, a time came and they told us, let us have a word of prayer from Anne. She's called Anne. Some people who are not of the born-again faith, they said, I cannot be in that prayer simply because we don't belong to the same. You get the point? They said, unless it is me leading the prayer, that's when I will join in. But if it's not me, I won't join her. But me, of course, I'm not saying I'm so much different from anyone. But since I had gotten that chance of learning how to handle or create an interest in someone, I just humbled myself. She prayed, and we became friends just over that, allowing that person who is not of your faith to lead a prayer. But you should take caution. There are some prayers, of course, you can't engage in. For example, someone is Hindu. Do you know who are Hindus are? We know Hindus. I think it's Elder who knows them. Now, someone is totally going to, whatever they are going to be praying and the way they do it is completely against what we believe in. But does not mean that you cause chaos and commotion around. You can stand there and keep quiet. Let them say whatever they say. Listen to what they pray to. There is always a key word. Where you start from. You get my point? Some other thing we can do if we are looking at Bible interests. There is a law that governs whatever we are going to be doing. How many of us want to have a lot of people baptized at the end of that crusade? That you called it a crusade, but it shouldn't be called a crusade. It's an evangelistic meeting. Crusade means something, but anyway. How many of us want to have a lot of people baptized at the end? So some of us are not even interested in having people join. Okay, I'm now talking to those people who want people to be baptized at the end of the meeting. The first law that will govern how much you will harvest is called much seed, much harvest. Much seed, much. You're not going to sow 2 seeds and then you start praying and say, God, we want to have at least 50 people at the end of the crusade. Just do your part. Talk to as many people as you can, putting what we have said into consideration. The other law goes to those whoever didn't put up their hand. It says, little seed, little. Just don't talk to anyone. Just don't talk to anyone, and your wish is going to be fulfilled. Am I being rude? No. I'm just being honest. If it is too hard for you, just raise your hand. Kali, if it is too hard for you to pretend and say, I want very many people to be baptized at the end, do you think such a person, it will be so easy for them to go out there and call someone to come? If this easy thing, you get my point? If that which is easy for you is too hard to respond to, then what of the other work? And the last law says, no seed, no harvest. Friends, there's a lot that you're going to invest into this. But the biggest thing that is going to make Jesus cry, not you, but Jesus, is when you fold your hands and keep quiet and you don't talk to anyone. Jesus is not to cry, is not going because you went out there and you called people and they refused to come. No, he's going to cry because Elder Joshua has just sat and done nothing. There's a Bible verse in Hosea chapter 4 verse 6 that says, anyone who knows what it says? Hosea 4 verse 6. My people have, because, but when you read the verse, there's someone who is supposed to go and tell those people, but they have chose to do what? Let me read for you that verse. Or anyone who has opened there, please, for the interest of time. Hosea 4 verse 6. To you who think that we still have more time, who keep procrastinating, this verse is saying, Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I also reject you, that you shall be no priest to me. Because you always say, we are what? We are what? A holy what? There's someone here who...
A holy priesthood.
We are a holy what? But God has said, I'm going to reject you if you choose to reject knowledge. One way of rejecting knowledge is refusing to do it. So if Jesus says, go out there, teach them, baptize them, and teach them, and you reject that, you have rejected knowledge. And he will also reject you. I don't think I need to put any other word. So my friend who is scared, who thinks we still have more time, maybe I'll do it in another season, there isn't any more time to waste. Now, I was talking about those people, but there are some people who are always amidst us. Another group of people who are interests. There are people who always comment. Now, you see what the Pope did? He's not a member. You see what the Pope did? He comments about that. You see what the Anglican Church did? He comments about that. You see what Pastor Salvador did? He comments about that. And so on and so forth. Now, if we are within the reach of such people, we can always choose not to show them that what they are doing is bad, though it is bad. But still, go back. What is the key word? Such people have a mind that they are the ones who know what the truth is. So be like Jesus at 12. What did Jesus do when he was 12 years old? He went to the temple. He sat down. He listened to whatever the teachers were saying. Now, after them talking, there is a way he posed his question. Doesn't the Bible say that we should? You get the point? In such a spirit, you have not made the other person to feel like he's smaller than you, but in another sense, you have created in him that interest to go back and look at what the word says, and he analyzes himself, and by the time you tell him, anyway, we also have some presentation at our church. Maybe there's something new we can discover together. Elder Bazanye, I'm happy to see you again. Now, those I called those commenters. They're always commenting on religious, everything that falls in the religious world. And there's another group of people who religious appreciators. Bambi. Bunga bayimba bulungi. He's not a church member. Bambi, the SDA they really sing so nice. They have nice songs. That man has preached. That person, they always appreciate what is occurring in relation to our church. Such people, tell them about your topics. Tell them, you know what? We are going to have a lot of people we are going to have choirs and what have you. Try to know what they are so much interested in, and you bring them on board. Are we together? I'm sorry, I'll be using my phone because someone is trying to fight us. And the other group of people are the children. There are very many kids that are within our reach. If it is too hard for Elder Bazanye, which I doubt, but if it is too hard for Elder Bazanye to associate with the kids in the neighborhood, it is not very hard for his grandchildren to associate with those kids. Use your kids to invite the children in. You get the point? So, as you are doing all, Jesus is not going to get mad at you if you bring 100 kids here in the crusade and no one is baptized out of those kids. We are sowing a seed. What did we say? Much seed, much. Much seed, much. I'm not hearing much seed, much. I think I've said that. I've talked about Jesus' methods or the way he used to do things. Now, when it comes, remember, we have been trying to relate with these people, informing them about the event, doing a Bible study as brief as possible, and leaving them to that state of saying there's still something new you can learn from the effort we are going to be holding, or meeting we are going to be holding at any venue that we have suggested. But now, when it comes to inviting, there are some things that you should really put into consideration. I talked about people you should start with, those ones who are once church members. I've talked about the neighbors. I know some of you have employees and even employers. It is not hard for you to invite your employer, but find his interest. How is on which bit is he interested in when it comes to religious or to Bible truth, and make an invitation. Now, I think the other group had left out the relatives. Many of us, I think, enjoy saying, I'm the only SDA in our family, and they call me pastor. Anything for praying, they say, oh, Muitabudu, and what have you. But when it comes to this, we'd better put that aside. Our relatives need Jesus, and you are not Jesus. Some of us get satisfied that after all, when it comes to religious functions at home, they invite me. When we lose someone, or if anyone dies at home, they say, Obafaza aganyo kuja, let us call Abdul to come and preach. You know, that is not enough. It will only be enough if they have also accepted who? Jesus. If they have accepted the truth. But how do I reach my relatives? Because they are the hardest people to reach. And yet, they are the closest people to us. I'll give a scenario of myself. When I just come, and my story was so tough, very tough. Before I became an SDA, I was a staunch, I don't know how many times, Catholic. And yet, I'm called who? Abdul. But I was a staunch Catholic because of my mom. And I was baptized here in Zambia and what have you. Now, when I went wherever I went, I think I was so much interested. Some people have interests about the truth, but they don't know which area. Now me, I discovered mine, that I'm so much interested when it comes to prophecy. And I think there was someone presenting on a radio. Only one or two presentations on the radio. They are always my interest. Now, which people are these? I found my way. When I found SDA Church, of course, I lost the job. Then I had to shift from Jinja back to Kampala. I don't even remember how I met Elder Kaunda. So, here. Now, between me converting from Catholicism, to Adventism, I became another staunch born again. But my family members were watching me. My mom called me and told me, Abudu, ogenda gweddalu. She said that, I remember. Abudu, ogenda kolashi? Gweddalu. You're going to fall mad. For those people who don't know Luganda. You were a very good Catholic. All the prayers. Now, you told me about Adventists, but now you're talking about the born agains. In the night, you wake up and you do a lot of stuff. You are just so much confused. Anyway, I just looked at her, but I also looked at myself and I said, I'm so what? I'm so confused. But if there's a God there who knows that I am longing to do what is right, he will find a church. So people have prayers outside there, my friend. He's confused, but inside him, he has a what? That prayer. It is you God is going to use to answer that prayer. So I ended up here. They baptized me. I tried to talk to my wife. She said, let us relate in all other things, but when it comes to God, I can't trust you. But you know when love has just started, loved her so much. Anyway, I think Elder Kaunda and some elders and some Madam Mrs. Chinji, I think, yeah, it was her. They sat somewhere here. They talked, because we used to come together, you know. They talked to her and she converted somehow. Now, when I went back to talk to my relatives that, you know what, the Catholics, I am going to say it the way I said it. But they are what? They are wrong. The born agains, they are wrong. But now the SDAs are right. Now my mom asked me a question and said, now, if you find out that also the SDAs are wrong, what will you tell us? I told her, I will tell you that they are what? But as far as I'm concerned now, there's nothing wrong. But it's until I gave myself time and started reading the Bible using our SDA Bible study guides. But as I was reading, I tried to practice what I'm reading. And that is the gist of the matter. People who are our relatives are going to be so much convinced by what we are doing than what we are saying. The reason as to why when they lose or someone dies at home and they say, Elder Shinji, I'm just giving an example, come and pray. Even if the priest is not coming, you come and, you know, because people are used to praying. When someone has died, there should be a service or whatever. You get? The reason as to why they are calling you, not the born again, the staunch catechist you have in your family, is because you have stood your faith and said the dead know not anything. And you know what? If you open the truth to people, truth makes a lot of sense. That it is too hard to fight it, other than you either choose to accept it or reject it. But your mind will be convinced. So our relatives are going to accept our invitations to know this Jesus we are talking about by what we are doing. Can I tell you another secret? Even other people you're going to invite are going to be so much taken by the way you conduct yourself. Now, the last group or the last thing when it comes to groups or the way we relate with these other people is the conversations we have. I would like to converse with someone here practically, and we do it the way I wanted to, but just allow me present it the way it should. I just present on it. Now, there are things that we engage ourselves in. Talk about the games, football, politics, and what other things? When it comes to people who like movies, you know every new movie. People are so much skilled that they can even tell what will happen in the next 5 minutes if they're watching a movie, even though they've never watched that movie before. You're getting my point? Someone can sit and tell you, according to what that policeman has done in a movie scene, the next thing is going to be this. And eventually it will be that. People are so skilled in football that when you're watching football, someone feels like we're entering into the TV and making this whoever player kick the way he wants that person to kick. And they comment about something, and if that player doesn't play the way this person is saying, of course the team loses. People are so good when it comes to betting. I know you have friends. They tell you, you're going to see Wakapapula. Joshua. And whatever Joshua will bet, if at all he does betting, but I believe he doesn't. Or the other Joshua outside there. Whatever Joshua says, those are the odds, and you get my point. So there are such people we relate with. So how do I change their conversations or whatever they are interested in that will suit my invitation. For example, if I have a friend, he likes politics so much, and we try to converse, and he tells me that, you know what, do you have any judges around here? I don't know how I should conduct myself when it comes to judges. You just pardon me, but I believe there are people who are so much respectable in the community. But if someone is so much dissatisfied with what maybe that system does, that judicial system does, if I want to now change his mind, because remember, if I don't change the topic, we shall continue in that direction. So I need to change that topic. We talk about in the same way, but when we are relating on Jesus Christ. So if someone is interested into that line, I'll tell him anyway. Do you know that even judges or lawyers or counsels, at least some of them use the Bible in their work? Do you know that someone, if they are going to stand, they will either at least have a book, in most cases the Bible, to show that they are going to stand on the truth, or they will say the truth. What am I trying to drive to? I want this person to divert his mind a little now to focus on where I want to drive him to. You know, if there's someone who is commenting or talking about football, how do I change that conversation of football now to fit into the picture of the invitation or the meeting we are going to have? So I go back to our principle, always look for that key word. And now, how do I make this invitation? If the people or the neighbors I'm going to talk to, I'm giving an example of neighbors, they are Muslims. What are the common things we have in the Christian world that somehow cross over to the Muslim world? For example, the Muslims talk about zakah. If you try to look at zakah and the tithe, there is at least some small what? So if you go to that person, you tell him, you know what, I think even the Bible talks about zakah. But do you mind if you come to the meeting? Because somehow, somewhere in the presentations you're going to have, they will have that bit where they will talk about the tithe. So call him on a topic that you have in common. If you see that there's something you don't go that doesn't go well between you and them, especially when it comes to those controversial topics, don't involve yourself in such. Because I want to tell you one thing. We are good at arguing. We are good at what? We are very good. You got an SDA who understood his mark of the beast. Even if someone tells you Kugambe it's a cheap, you feel like carrying that person. So instead of you going into those grounds, leave that work for the preacher. The Bible has a principle when it comes to evangelism that he who is just in the least is also just in what? There's something hidden behind that. If you use the smallest truth you know, it will be so easy to whoever you're sharing with to even understand that which is so what? So hard to know. So start with the little what? Little truth. Don't go in for those controversial topics that you also get what? Confused in the end of the day when you're talking to that person. So I understand my neighbor. I find what thing do we have in common. I have friends who always talk about grace, grace, grace. If I don't understand the topic of grace very well, I'll ask that person in a way that shows him or her that they can teach me something new about grace. And I should affirm to them that I've understood something. But anyway, do you mind coming this side, joining us? If you have a question, you will do what? Because I believe in your presentation, you shall have that time where people write their what? Their questions. When I'm looking at my neighbor or someone I want to invite, I want to use Elder's name again. Elder Chiinji. I don't think it is so hard. Let me say, if my neighbor is the other type, religious appreciators, they are quick to appreciate whatever, something that is related to religion. They say, oh, Bayimbe Bulungi and what have you. It is not so hard for Elder Chiinji. One evening, days away to the meeting, you carry your daughter and your wife, and you go to that person and tell him or her, we are here for you, a hymn. Choose a hymn that is going to leave questions in their what? There are very many. You sing to them and then let them know, anyway, we are going to have a meeting. We shall have songs. Don't show them that you have to sit there the whole day and wait for when the meeting will end. No. In evangelism, we are told that every person, like what I'm doing here, I might talk 1,000 words. Elder, do you mind telling me your name? Reminding me your name, please? Nirabirani. Katerega. Is your wife around? Is she the one seated this side? No wonder I was remembering. Because I saw her frequently, I think. Okay. Elder Katerega. You know? You can choose to do the least you understand better. All you need is to pull this person to come to the meeting. I was trying to tell you that in the book of evangelism, there is a quote that says, in a vast multitude of people, when a preacher is preaching, there is only one word that preacher is supposed to say, and this soul turns. Even in our presentation here, there are people who are going to invite to get interests out there. But they don't know, they haven't yet understood until when I will mention their word. So you never know in the singing you're doing, there's a word for that person. The song I made you sing has a phrase that touches me so much. That phrase says, I tell him what annoys me and what makes me. You don't know what that phrase did for me. There was a point I felt like giving up on some stuff. I think it was during the training. We are training. I had to be at work. I had to be at work in the night and then go to Africa. We trained during that day. So I had no time to sleep. Now, I used to complain when it comes to memorizing Bible verses, because we had classes where you have to memorize Bible verses. I open my Bible, I memorize the verse, I even write it down, I close the Bible, I memorize it again, and when it comes now to writing it on paper, I got so annoyed. Time went on. It's not until I heard that song being sung. It's not until I opened the hymn book, because I thought maybe I heard so badly that, it's not until I opened the hymn and found those words that I tell him what annoys me. And I want to tell you, I was so annoyed when it comes to memory. I memorize it so well. When it comes to writing it, it's nowhere. And I believe I used to be the one on the last end of the line. But when I read that phrase of verse, I just went into prayer and it said whatever I have to say first. Then I said, Jesus, I'm going to tell you what annoys me. Why can't I memorize? Or why do I forget? You get the point. That was my word. Now to turn me. Just finding that there's that allowance you were given, even to let Jesus know what annoys you. People are so much misled about God. People think of God as this stern person who, if he says A is A, and if you didn't know that A is A, you have to die, whether you knew or you didn't. But if you reach those people, do whatever you have to do. There's always a word for that person. So don't dare not participate when it comes to inviting these people. You can choose to write to them. You can choose to make a phone call, but physical is much, much better. Much better. These phone calls and writings can always come in on the last bit of it. But always try to meet these people physically. If you have some few misunderstandings between you and those people, it is not too hard. We said the only master is Jesus Christ. As I'm winding up, the only master in our church is Jesus Christ. Even if you're at which level, but if it requires you to do something, that this person at least will buy back some interest to talking to you so that you invite to them, just go and do it. So lastly, I want to talk about the common mistakes you can do when you're going to call people here or for your meeting. One, self-approval. You know I am the church elder. You know I am so and so. Try to reach the level of those people just as Jesus did. Let us avoid nagging, judging, and anything that will prevent those people coming. In the last 1 minute, there's one thing I know we always face, and that is fear for rejection. If you find any kind of rejection to whoever you have invited, they have not rejected you. They have rejected who? They have rejected who? Jesus. Mark you. Some of us have ever been rejected several times and on bad things. But if someone has rejected me on this very good thing, and that is Jesus, trust me, nothing. I don't feel so dashed in my heart. So I'll beg, I stop here because of time. Once again, I thank you all for having entrusted me for this session. And at most of it all, please go outside there. Don't forget to pray for the person you want to invite. Use all that the Master has provided for you to call them in, that we can have much harvest out of the seed we shall do. Let us pray. Kind and merciful Father, we thank you for this session. Look at us, O Lord. Some of us are filled with fear, but we know that it is the enemy who is extending his feelings into us, that we might fear the fields where you send us. But if you tell us that you're going to walk with us wherever we go, we shall hold on to that first end and trusting that you lead us. As we are going, let your Holy Spirit go and bring those interests closer to us. Be with us in all that we are going to do. I pray all this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord. May God bless you.